Okay,
Is
welcome
that working
everybody.
now?
Hmm?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
Great.
And
Had to
Greg, you're
unplug.
good.
Thank you.
Greg's good. Okay, so Rob, give us the background and then we'll give you the foreground. How's that?
Yeah, perfect. So a longtime client of ours with Manulife Property Management Company acquired another property management company in Winnipeg. Our client has about 30 people on the plan. The company they acquired has 15, but the company they acquired is a division. They acquired the property management division of construction company that also did property management. So in total, they had about 25 people on the plan, 15 of them in property management, 10 in the construction division. And so it was interesting. And their plan is with Manulife as well. So I thought, oh, this is great. This is interesting, and got a copy of the recent billing statement and employee booklet, plan design. And of course, the first thing I do, because it's the simplest thing to do, is I go and look at what their health and dental rates are compared to what our clients' health and dental rates are. And there's quite a discrepancy. So our clients' health rate, single health rate's 94 and change, and the family's 221 and change. And the newly acquired client is $58 for single health and 136 for family health. Similar for dental, 57 for single dental versus 35, and 160 for family dental versus 93. So then I jumped into the plan design and looked at the booklets to compare, well, what's the discrepancy here? Is this all just claims experience, or is it plan design? And so the small plan, the firm that's been acquired doesn't have orthodontics.
Okay.
So that's the only difference in dental. They don't have ortho. And their healthcare, they've got 80% drugs, which matches up our client's plan, but they have 80% all other versus our client has 100% all other. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
Close enough.
Yeah. Parameds are the same annual limit. They have an $8.50 dispensing fee cap on their, so, okay.
Couple bucks here, a couple bucks there.
Yeah. They have vision care for $200 every 2 years. So you'd think that would add some to their health premium.
If it's being used.
Yeah, exactly. And unrelated to the rate difference, they also have healthcare spending account. I don't know anything else about it at this point, but
Okay, so
and they don't have LTD. So unrelated to health and dental, the rate specifically, they have a health spending account. They do not have LTD, which our client has. So
okay, so first question is, what does a client want to do? Do they want to bring it all together, one company, everybody's going to be on the same payroll, one big merged company, or is it going to stay as two divisions or classes, or?
I don't think they even know yet.
Okay.
They're let us know just to try and get some feedback and insight from us and things that they might need to be thinking about or might want to be considering.
Yeah.
So they're open to our
Okay.
input.
Can they get claims data for the 25 life group, even if it has the other construction people in it?
I expect so. Whether I can get it,
Yeah.
yeah, is the question.
Do people just want to jump in here? I've got a list, but I kind of feel like I want to go last.
I haven't heard what I just jumped in, so.
Sure,
Okay.
come here late and then expect us to catch you up. Screw you, Corey Case-Moore.
I'm only 7 minutes.
But...
That's what happens when you work for the government in CBC, Dave. That joke's never gonna die, Corey, just so you know.
I love it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Corey's company's case by case CBC benefits.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. Okay. A little slow today, sorry. And the national bird, the Canadian goose, I guess just reinforces the whole thing. So yeah.
Don't
Okay.
say my last name backwards and we're good.
Yeah. When okay, so bottom line is merging two companies, your prices are way too high, theirs are kind of way too low. The plans are similar enough that you should be able to merge. So I guess the questions are bigger than the answers, right? So if I'll start and people jump in. So number one, do you want, like, how do they want to run this operation? Is it going to be run as, two sister companies? Like, are they competing against each other, or they want to give the illusion of being not owned by the same company? So that's kind of, I guess, where I would start. And then I would say, okay, if you want to just be one, then, did I hit record? I did, right? Yeah, I did. Okay,
Yeah, I
did.
got a notification of it.
Okay, so then you would say, okay, do we want blended claims experience? Like, is it really one solid group, one class, one division? And do we want the same rates for everybody and stuff? And that's kind of where I tend to usually go. That way, if people transfer from one company to another, there's no difference. So let's amalgamate the plan designs. Let's add the health spending account. Let's add the LTD. Meet kind of the best of both worlds as much as you can. Okay, so then do blended rates, do blended experience. And you would get Manulife from your plan to grandfather coverage from the other, depending on what their life insurance is. Because there's no LTD on the other plan, not so much of an issue, but if there's, I doubt there's higher life insurance, but if there was, you try and get it across so there's no medical underwriting. You don't have to worry about pre-existing conditions because of LTD. And you would probably try and get them, Manulife, to accept their hire date, like just make sure they port across all the information and say, let's grandfather them. So let's use the original hire date rather than this merger hire date. Sometimes they'll do that, sometimes they won't. Sometimes it comes in handy, sometimes not.
Well, I guess if we're adding like LTD, are you thinking of pre-X, pre-existing?
Yeah. So if you're going to add LTD along the way, they're not going to get grandfathered, but their experience time should be. So they're still going to have to be medically underwritten or whatever is required. But so showing that there's like an unbroken, assuming this is true, and that there's an unbroken chain of employment. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, why are you saying that they'll have to be medically underwritten?
Oh, like above the NEM, I mean. Sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Just like, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah. So the base stuff won't, and but they don't have existing coverage. So I would assume they're just like a new hire that way, other than the seniority. And I guess what I'm thinking, and if the benefit was put in whatever, November 1, just for argument's sake, and somebody was disabled on November 2, would a disability claim pay or not? Like they'd only been on LTD for 1 day, but if their hire date was really 3 years ago, then they'd be eligible as long as the hire date is reset. I'm not 100% sure of that, but like, I mean, that's what I would kind of shoot for. Sarah, what do you think? I know you got that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that it would pay on November 2nd unless there was a pre-ex, or you're trying to argue that he should get the pre-ex waived based on hire date, because I don't think that Manulife would do that.
I don't think they'll waive the pre-ex, but I think
No.
using the hire date would save them from like treating you as a new hire, a 3-month wait or anything like that. You go, no, this
waive,
person.
yeah, waive the waiting period.
Yeah.
Waive the waiting
Oh
period.
yeah, so I never even said that, of course. Yes.
Yeah, waive the waiting period and then it would pay on the 2nd. The other thing I'd offer is that sometimes what I do, if I feel like, let's say it's a 2 times versus 1 time life, I won't even get it grandfathered. I'll just set up a separate class for employees hired before this date, and then mirror the life insurance that they have now, and then put in employees hired after that. And then once that class is closed, close it, or turnover is.
So all the existing employees, you'd set up a separate like division for the.
Not even a division, unless the client wants, as Dave said, to have a clear divide in the line of 2 different companies, 2 different taxations, 2 different, operating
2 different plan administrators, 2 different billing addresses, locations.
Then you need different divisions. Otherwise, 1 division, 2 classes, actually 3, because you'd have your existing employees, your employees ported over as of that date, employees that have the same plan as the other one. that are hired after this date.
I'm
And
gonna bet.
some-
No, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna bet based on the industry is that it's low life. It's probably like 25, 50 grand or something. Do you know by chance?
Well, I got the booklet here, of course.
Like I have never done a property management company that's got like 2 or 3 times, unless it's a core of the partners or something like that.
I don't see it in
That's
front of
okay.
me.
But I would just like, I mean, I've done a bunch of property management companies and they've all been like flat or minimal kind of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
so
just to clarify, are what Sarah, is what you're saying to the existing employees on the newly acquired management company, keep that plan, keep that staff on that same plan design as a separate class. Going forward, new hires go into the larger main plan that's been acquired or whatever, maybe they make some changes.
Yeah, it's an approach to take if already, it's a
Yeah.
change management approach. If you've already had so much change with all sorts of other different structures and you feel the client feels like this will be a tipping point to the psyche of staff
Yeah.
buy-in and they're going to lose staff, it's just the easiest plug and play to get the cost efficiencies that you're looking for of having greater volume. The other important question is, was the cost sharing? Is there cost sharing? Because if we take the lower plan and we blend them and the rate goes up, and now the employee who didn't see a benefit to their plan all of a sudden now has, you know, 10, even $12 a month coming off their plan, they'll be
Yeah.
frustrated.
and you yeah, you made kind of a couple of good points there on top of the cost sharing. So just to kind of hit the basics, just in case, classes are divisions of benefit. Sorry, classes are groups of benefits. Divisions are like separate billings and stuff like that, separate
Yeah.
rates. They can be mirrored, but they don't have to be. So you can have, you know, Toronto and Vancouver as divisions and the profit centers and stuff. I just say this because I know people confuse them sometimes. And then in Toronto, you could have 2 classes, you know, executives, managers, or new and old, or whatever. I always still come back to these things of what's, like, ask the employer, what's the final intent of what this is going to look like? Because if you're going to have people moving back and forth, like, are they going to move from working for this company to this company? Are you going to keep 2 separate payrolls and stuff like that? If the answer is no, we're going to be one company, we bought them to merge them in, then all of a sudden you start kind of ticking off stuff that you're not going to deal with. You're not going to have the old plan, the new plan, probably. You're going to have one big plan. You're going to bring everybody in. And I try and keep it simple that way. And Sarah brings up a good point of what happens if there's loss or if there's cost sharing. If you move everybody up to the same plan, add the health spending account, add the LTD, both sides are getting a little bit more than they had before, as long as the cost sharing doesn't detract from that, I guess.
Well, or the cost,
Or the
I'm
client
assuming
doesn't
it's
want to do it.
50-50 cost share between the two firms now, but
You assume, or you think it is, or you know it is?
well, it's 50-50 on our client. I don't know about the one they acquired.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so that
I'll find
then-
that out.
yeah, so your people might see a rate decrease and actually be thrilled with the whole idea. You might want to take a, I mean, you're going to assume that the group of 25 or whatever being absorbed has overall better claims, and you're going to assume that the 15 out of 25 are the predominant parts. So we're going to assume that they have on average better claims, which may or may not be the case. But you could probably kind of use that to, like Sarah said, like you got the increased size, but you've also got clean claims probably. And the fact that it's Manulife on both sides, and I don't know how this would work, so anybody else jump in, they could probably pull the data if they really wanted to and look at the 15 and just say, yeah, whatever, it's close enough to the rest, to the group as a whole, use that claims experience. But I would probably, for a group this size, I probably wouldn't go that far. That's just me.
You're talking about if you just merge the two groups into one plan.
Yeah. And the whole, to me, the idea is you want, if you can, you want to keep as many as you can whole that aren't going through change. So if you can keep the same policy number and the same certificate numbers for your 30 or whatever it was, and all you're doing is inconveniencing 15, they understand the process, they understand how to make claims. They're using the same company. So all you're really doing is saying, like, I'm sorry, but you got to re-enroll because the name at the top of the form is no longer ABC Construction and Property Management. It's now CDE Property Management.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a legal and binding thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
go
the
ahead.
the challenge that I have with the idea of merging the two plans, or more, well, either way, merging the smaller one into the larger plan, is there's such a discrepancy between the health and dental rates. Like you're 50%, almost doubling the health and dental rates for
No,
the newly acquired firm. If
no,
you
no,
just,
no. You're going to go back and Manulife. You're going to say, look, Manulife, we're increasing the group by 50%. We're merging them. You have the claims data. You're going to give us revised and reduced rates.
Okay.
Now, we don't, do you know when the renewal is of either plan or both plans? You know yours.
yeah, it just, yeah, hold on. Wasn't that long ago.
Because your underlying threat, which you don't probably even have to make, is if you don't want to come to the table on this, then we can merge both plans together with any other carrier, and we'll let them,
Right.
give us better pricing based on this new 45 life group rather than you doing it on a 30 and a 15. And the
Yeah.
fact, Manulife would rather keep it on the books, and if it's a well-run group on both sides and profitable and stuff, then they should have no problem coming to the table and reducing rates for the new combined 45.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So that's something to explore, assuming that's the intent that the client wants to
Yeah.
pursue.
So in my mind, the way you start these, and this is what I always do, is okay, so let me back up one step. We don't have nearly as many benefit issues in this world as we do HR issues. And I mean, maybe I'm saying it kind of wrong because it's not all just HR, but if you solve the administrative or HR problem, the benefits follow, right? So you go, I want to know payroll. I want to know, are these guys on the same payroll or not? Or like, as soon as you start filling that out, like I have all these questions from people kind of saying, do we terminate benefits for the employee that's disabled without a policy? I'm like, why would you terminate benefits? On what ground? You would terminate employment for frustration of contract, but you have no grounds to terminate benefits. Solve the HR problem, terminate the employee, and then the benefits terminate and the problem is solved. Doing it halfway, let the benefits drive HR is the wrong way to do it. So your thing in this case is go back to the client and say, what would you like to achieve? What do you want today? And what do you want a couple of years from now? Are people going to work back and forth? Are they working together? Like, are we for WSIB or what do you call it? WCB or whatever? Are you going to
Yep.
merge it all together and it's one company, one payroll, and kind of get that handled down first? Okay, then after we kind of go, yes, it's one company, then go, okay, then should we establish one benefit? And so that everybody has, assuming there's no management class or anything else, but do we now say, okay, we have one company, we're going to have one benefit plan with Manulife today. Do we now put it all together and do we match the higher, the lower, or something in between? And to me, this is depending, as long as the health spending account isn't like $1,000 or something, adding LTD and adding health spending account so that each side end up a little bit further ahead is kind of
Yeah.
sweetening the pot a bit. Not a bad thing to do in this day and age. And then the rest will follow. Some thoughts, just random when you're at the fact finding. Is it clear common ownership? Like, is it this company is buying that company, or is it we have two partners here and one partner is buying that company and I'm buying this company, so they're sister companies and not, you kind of will figure that out just as you go through your questions.
And sometimes question number one, sorry, I keep interrupting, but
No, you're
sometimes
not.
question number one has to be, were there any agreements made at the time of the sale? I stumbled upon that one where agreements were made to employees that they wouldn't have any changes for a year, and the client didn't pay attention to that. And I came in, we made benefit changes with 3 months notice, but only 3 months into it. And we had held to pay as a result. We had to backtrack. So sometimes
Good
there's
point.
agreements made within the sale and purchase agreement, and in which case you have to honor those. Back to the HR issue, and then you have to provide a couple months notice. So you can't go making these changes like effective December, or probably not even January 1. You'd probably want to give a good notice period, even if you're enhancing them.
Yeah. I'll I never said this, I don't think, but I'm also assuming both groups are non-union. There's no collective bargaining agreement issues. There's no, change on merger issues or anything like that. So if they're unionized, then you're going to go to the CBA as well. I'm going to disagree with Sarah just a little bit on one little piece, and that is if it's an enhancement in the plan, provided there isn't an offsetting cost to the employee, then I'm not so worried about giving notice. I mean, it's a change of condition of employment. Legally, it's right. But if you said we're going to go from 80% to 100% drugs, and as a result, you're going to pay, $50 a month, that one's going to need communication, even though it's an enhancement. The cost sharing is going to be a reduction in their minds. So, what else do people have? Any other considerations as you merge companies? I seem to do this like probably once a year at least. It's pretty common, and I don't know if there's one standard answer. I know I try and force people to one plan design and everything else because I've had too many where it screws up because people transfer between divisions and all of a sudden they realize they've lost coverage in the middle of their kids' orthodontics and stuff like that. So I had a company just called the O company, and we'd say like, let's make it one company, one big one big O, one big benefit plan, one big everything, and everybody stays in the same. And they went, no, we're fine having 12 different divisions and classes, and like within a year people were transferring from one to the other, and it started to show all the leaks and problems and differences. And so we ended up, and a year later changing everything, which is a pain in the ass. It's easier just to do it when you're doing all the legals and stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
I just think you use this opportunity to almost do a reset with the owners to say, what's the benefit plan trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And how do we now make changes? And maybe not with the new people, but kind of do it over time, but say, like, maybe CIs become really important. Maybe like, I would just really use it as an opportunity to say, the current plan design might be tinkered with, and this is a great time to figure out what your corporate culture is and what your goals are.
100% agree. And if the goal is, we haven't done anything with the plan for a few years, and attract and retain is an issue, and we want to enhance, well, then you know what? You've got the health spending account on one side. Let's add it to the other side. There's a plus. Maybe it's at $250. Maybe we give them both a bump to $350. There's a little extra positive consideration. And oh, by the way, we'll do LTD for these guys too, and deal with that.
Yeah.
It really, once you get the fact finding down, and in my mind, you kind of lead the people down the path a little bit. Like you want to make them think beyond the closing date and kind of into what this is going to look like in the future. It
Yep.
starts to get easy fairly quickly. Like unless companies really split and not sure what they want to do, and they're buying it for now because they want to shut it down tomorrow or something, like those type of things make it much more complicated. But you're going to find that out before you get to the benefits.
Yeah, I don't foresee anything uncommon here. I could imagine they bought it. It's the same type of business that they have existing, so they'll probably be open to and imagining themselves that they would just merge the two together and have one plan.
Yeah.
Run it all as one plan.
Yeah, I'll tell you the biggest problem that happens, and it happens all the time, and we find out about usually too late, is you go, oh, they don't talk to you about it. The whole thing happens, and all they do is fill out, whatever 15 enrollment forms and put them on the plan. And then all of a sudden you got waiting periods, you got, pre-X's and everything else. That's when it's hard to fix. So the fact that they've involved you in the process is great.
Yeah. Well, and this came up at the renewal, which the plan renewed October 1st. So, we were dealing with this. It probably came up at probably 2 months ago now.
Mhm.
And then I just got the data a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
You might also just, you don't have to do this, but you might also want to just take a look at your comp at the same time. If the group's growing by 50% and you move it into the old group that you have and you're like charging a flat 10, it might be appropriate to adjust it at the same time. Not telling you what to do with comp, but just
That's a lot more work, like go to a flat 15, you think, Dave, or a flat 20?
flat 20 is what I like to go to, sure. And then you can always come back to like 19 and a half if you have to give something up.
Yeah.
That's always good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the flat 20 matches Sun Life's internal reps, so that's good.
No, 19.5.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
always
that's
just
where you
say
got
it's,
that number
I say it's
from.
20%, but it's 19.5. So, um, yeah, so I only like if it just kind of put you out of the ballpark or something.
Well, and that's a
Um,
good point. What's the comp set up on the plan they're acquiring? Because that'll be impacting the rates too. So
Yeah, so if you can get claims data, you can kind of get an idea of what their TLRs are. Like if you get renewal data, and you can
Right.
see is the TLR, that TLR for the what was 25 life group should be similar to what yours is with your 30 life group. Like,
Yeah.
you know, well, your premium side, like it's going to mess a bit, but it's going to be pretty close. If you see it's out by 10 points, then you know they've been overcharging probably and stuff like that.
right. Yep.
Anything else people should be aware of?
The only other
I-
thing that's burned me a couple of times is a lot of times they won't even tell you that the old owners get to stay on the plan for 3 or 5 years. And then you get into a claims issue and all of a sudden they're not employees. They don't have any right to be on there. So that's a question you definitely want to make sure you ask.
So go back down to Sarah's question of what's in the purchase agreement. Is there any promises that were made, whether it's in changing people things or keeping people on, or in this area, another one, again, my pet peeve, maybe not yours. Independent contractors are big in property management and construction and stuff. So are they all like, are they proper employees that you're bringing across, or is there some agreements or anything that you need to know about? If they're regular T Ford employees, great. If they're not, how do you deal with that?
Yep.
Anything else anybody wants to add or
I
thoughts?
was just going to mention timing because I just did one and I brought them over Manulife to a group source, and you would think it's really quick. It's painstakingly long. They treat it as an amendment, and we actually had to try to push it through a ridiculous amount of time.
Like we're talking 4-6 weeks kind of thing?
It was 5 almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And I got it down to 18 days, so 4 weeks.
yeah. What's the closing date of the purchase? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Is it a future date? Or like I don't care the date, but like are they still on the Manulife plan legally or are they off the plan? Be like, sorry, there's gonna still be on the plan probably, but has a purchase happened and they just left them on until they figure it out? You know what I mean?
That is my understanding, but I'd have to confirm that.
So when you go back to the payroll question of how's everybody getting paid, are you all on one payroll for one company? Then if that's the case, again, there's no disability, so that risk is gone. And because it's Manulife on both sides, it's probably not as bad as if it was two different companies, but yeah, so you want to get them over onto the plan as soon as possible because legally they're not allowed to be on the other plan anymore, right? They're not
Right.
actively at work for that company. So you're going to want a closer date to do it all, which is going to be hard. Like, I mean, November 1's you're toast already. Like it,
Yeah.
you're going to do it retroactive maybe to December 1, but it's going to take them a little while to pull claims, pull pricing, do the changeover. So it might be, you know, you might be well into November or even the end of November before everybody's kind of on the plan and legal. So make sure you give them a heads up that it's not super fast. It's not just adding people to the plan, because you could do that, but the costs are huge and the liability is somewhat higher and the risk to the employees is greater. Let's not do that. Let's do it right and slow rather than fast and wrong.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything to add or share from past mergers, acquisitions, and things?